Thank you so much, Dr. Abla. The Kenyan experience is very interesting, and the financial inclusion indicators have improved a lot. It's a pioneering experience all over the continent of Africa. Also, digital payment penetration improved a lot, and the percentage now is 70% penetration. So it would be safe to say that Kenya has frog leaped, and this is because countries that do not have received ideas and are very, very open to learn and to hear suggestions can advance more and better. And I will refer to that later when we review the experiences of other countries.
Who achieve bigger development, and this is what happened in Kenya. The Kenya started to do this kind of payments. In Egypt we tried, but we couldn't do it. Sudan tried to do the digital payments. The Central Bank of Sudan also has stopped it. Kenya left people to do whatever they want, so now Kenya became one of the leading companies or the biggest companies in digital payments, and they have financial inclusion at its highest rate. So we have to leave people to do the work and let them do it instead of just stopping them. So I really thank the Cameroonian ambassador for the role in digitization, because we really need what's called convenience. We need to eradicate corruption, and also the automation digitization always gives us opportunity to do something better. And also we need to have control and increase efficiency, and this is the elements. And we have seen the Cameroonian experience that through very simple means they were able to achieve this. I will talk about the experience of different countries in building a digital economy, and the countries that have preceded us and the countries like ours on what they can do. So in the development towards what's called information community, so in each level of development there are certain assets, which is very important. Before we were agricultural economy and we have just the animals and agricultural lands. We have developed and became more looking into oil and coal, and iron is very important. So the most important thing is the big data, because data is like the fuel of all revolutions. So communities develop until we get to reach into what's called information society. Of course, digital economy changes the face of the world, and IBM has talked about this, and also changing the economy of the world, that we, through a very short period of time, and in the year 2022, we will find that this digitization will increase productivity by 5 to 10%, and also we'll find out that 65 of the children will work in posts or jobs that will be newly created, that are not available now. And now we have 6 billion mobile users, and in the year 2022 we'll have 14 billion connected devices, which is double what we are in now, or what we call the Internet of Things, and they will be 30 billion by 22 something, and 90% of the people will be using banks, and 80% will be using electronic banks, and 80% will buy online, 90% will do the payments. Financial inclusion, or what we call it digital inclusion, it will be very important. And we have 2 countries in the world that are competing to the digital transformation and on the digital economy. These are America, which is the origin, and also China is now competing in order to reach this. If we look at this chart, we will find a comparison between the year 2005 that the e-commerce was representing 4% of the economy, and also the world trade was 400 billion. Now it's in trillions, and China represents 42%, which is more than the US. So now China depends on electronic trade or e-commerce, and it was able to boost its exports and made the biggest exporter, which is called Alibaba, and it has really was able to transform China to bring it to this phase. And then through Alibaba we made what's called the Black Friday, and the volume of transactions in Alibaba at this day was $25 billion in one day, in less than 24 hours. And this is an unprecedented number. So now you can imagine the scale. And if we look at the digital payments or through mobile, we will find that in the US it's like 790 billion. And in China, we found that the unicorns, and these are the group of companies that are more than 880 billion, and we'll find the number of unicorns were 262 companies, which are and 47% are in the US, and 34 are in China, and 19 are in other parts of the world. So you can see how the things look like. We will find that the valuation of these companies, all these companies were around $883 billion. So the valuation of China is very close to Americans. So though the Chinese are less than the Americans, that means people bid on the Chinese more than on the, or trust them more than the Americans. So we'll see why the reason is China is developing. China has followed a very different system. It did not start to develop its system, its government system, using the digitization. It started to build companies, and these companies can compete in the whole world and can build platforms depending on the sheer size of the China's economy and export its products, and it started to open its bottlenecks. The first phase in China is that it has adopted two companies, which is Huawei and ZTE, and they started to build infrastructure, and now Huawei is the second company in the world after Cisco in building telecommunication infrastructure. And then it has the other case is that China wanted to increase its exports and foreign trade, and it has encouraged a platform called Alibaba, and Alibaba is the one who contributed, and Alibaba and the other three companies, they build an ecosystem around them. So Alibaba made Alipay, which is in charge of electronic services, and Bidu, and China opened for them. Though China is a very closed economy, or totalitarian economy, or dictatorial, or domineering, but they found that there is no other mean to do any liberation in economy. They can do the liberation of economy before doing any liberation in politics. So if we look today at the world, we will find there is something that's GDP, or the amount of digital economy from the GDP. So we will find that there is a group of countries. These are the I'm pointing at, and the digital economy represents 8%. Only Ireland, it represents 22%, which is a different case, because its economy is built on digital economies. And we'll find here China is 4.7, and we you have all the leading companies. So what was in 3% in 2010, they will reach the leading countries in the whole world, which is a main country, and it will reach 10% in 2020. So the rate of development in China is very high. Another country which is very important, which is the UK, we can say that it is an advanced or developed economy, or a mature economy, as we can say. A mature economy will look into digitalization that it is a development in the innovation. So they focus on business sectors and increase innovation, so that innovation will be the one that develops the economy. So they use it in a way to develop its economy. They have different policies. So first they help the digital innovators and increase innovation in the field of digitization. And also they focus on the user, and because they help the innovator, the digital, and build the infrastructure and the platforms and the ecosystems, which we will talk about. And they have also to ensure sustainability, which we really suffer from here in Egypt, because sustainability in development is difficult. There is a chart that also shows the different technicalities, and these are the different technicalities, and we will find here a lot of technicalities, and it's including autonomous cars, and also VFG, which is the 5G. Now we still did not reach the 4G. So in UK has a target in 22 that all countries will be 100 megabyte connectivity. Here we are still talking about 2 or 3, 4 megas in very limited areas. So the problem is, it's not an awkward, is that it's what we are doing to solve it. We have seen countries like Kenya, they have 70% digital inclusion or financial inclusion, and so some countries have serious trials to do things. If we look at the strategy of the UK, they talk about connectivity, they talk about skills and inclusion, they talk about digital sectors and the wider economy and the cyberspace. It's like how to secure things, and also they talk about digital government. So I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 objectives. All things are related, most of them are related to the user. If we look at another country like Europe, we found that Europe did some programs. They have a problem that there is discrepancy between the advanced countries or the developed countries or the leading companies like the Scandinavian countries and Belgium and Ireland. And there is another group of countries which is mainstream, which is France and Italy and other delayed countries. So the European Union needs to do harmonized. So they built something called Digital Europe or Digital Market Opportunities. They did an indexing of all these countries, and they did programs and frameworks how to help each country so that they will have harmonized. There will be no more discrepancy between them. So this is very important because these frameworks are there, and we have the ability to participate in these frameworks, because if we requested them, they can help us. They don't have any problem behind that, and they can deal with us in the way they deal with us, like other companies that are part of the European Union. But we don't have earnest efforts to do it. So the Single Market Initiative of Europe is built on 3 things. First, it's built on citizens, because we need to have digital skills for the entire population. We need also to build a digitized citizen, because the quality of the person is the competitive element in the whole world in the coming period. Because in a country like Egypt, our Egyptian economy is mainly dependent on remittances of Egyptian overseas, because this is the biggest, because our formal economy is 22 billion while it is 60 billion. So this income is the highest. We're still depending on exporting labor as the main source of income to Egypt. So how can we develop this? The other point is to develop the government. So all these services, all the e-services. The last thing is the businesses. How to increase our share of business sectors in the whole world so that our economy can flourish. So we have what's called the core enablers, or what things allows these things to happen. Also, the second is the cybersecurity, which is safety or securing networks, and also the artificial intelligence. And maybe in IBM said that we have phases of the development of e-government. We have the e-government, we have the smart government, and we have the cognitive, uh, uh, which is built on artificial intelligence. The cognitive government is built on interface will be, and we called it cognitive analytics, which we are analyzing what we say. So the system understands what you want and gives you proposals, and they can communicate with the natural language. So the other point in the cognitive is that to have analytics. So it does analytics to you and your requirements, so that they can forecast your or predict what you want at the personal level and also at the government level, so that they can do a support system that can support decisions. We did a decision support systems. We were the first country to do a decision support system, but unfortunately the results were not as good. So normally we are always the first, but sometimes the results are not that good. Europe has a very big problem that if they go in the same way, they will reach 15. It will take them 15 years to reach digital Europe. This is their objective, and this is the trend. They want to go as far as they can. After this, we will look into another country like India, for example. India, they are very unique. They have a very unique experience. It is the biggest country in the whole world that export the programs, because they have a very big industry in this, and they were successful to benefit from the last phase in the development, and they were able to contribute to create an economy and to create income and develop its human power. Mr. Gupta was the first minister of electronics in they called it the Ministry of Electronics. First it was the Department of Electronics in the government of India, and afterwards it became a ministry. He came many times here in Egypt, and he looked at us, and he came and visited the IDSC in Egypt, and he was really impressed, and he found that we are the biggest competitor of India. The first time he was really impressed. The second time they made a decision to do a ministry, to be part of the Ministry of Industry. The third time he came with a very big manual that has the Indian strategy. We had also a strategy that we did it 3 years before him, and we gave it to him, and he was very impressed. With the strategy we did was very professional, but Mr. Gupta, we didn't see him afterwards. So with the scale and with the number of population, we are 100 million, where they are billion or more. They export 160 billion, we only export 3 billion, so at least we should be exporting 16 billion. If we go move the same pace, we should be exporting by 60 billion. So India had very big efforts. It's a big country, and they have a very high poverty rates, and they have the biggest middle class, and their level of income is like Europe. It's not like Europe. They have lots of governorates, municipalities, so they have what we call, they are a little bit lagging behind, but they are catching up. They put a vision for themselves. So they said that the vision is built on 3 things. That is to build the infrastructure, which is they were very developed or advanced in numbers, but not in the quality. But still their prices are cheaper than Egypt. In governance, and which is very important. Governance is very important. What's meant by an e-government is three things. The first is the ease of or the convenience. The second thing is to eradicate corruption, and the third thing is efficiency or control. And these are the three main objectives. So two of them, which is eradicating corruption or control, is related to governance, is how to control the system and how to have a vision for the problems and how to do programs for improvement. The other thing is the digital empowerment of citizens, is that people will be using this technology and improve their skills. They have nine pillars, and it's a very big program, and it's very important, which is one of them is IT for jobs, is to transform the jobs and teach people how to use it. As regards, there is also another group of countries. We have talked about Dubai, which is a small country, but these made a very big difference in what we call the adoption, and they were really advanced or before other countries. So the Dubai and Estonia are preceding other countries, and also in the technicalities that they are applying. The blockchain is a certain technicality that provides databases which make its change very difficult. So Estonia people put an agenda. They put a goal. They started more than 15 years ago. They said that they want to create an environment to the use of the ICT and the development of smart solutions in Estonia. So they wanted to increase economic competitiveness. And the second thing is to increase the efficiency of life or the efficiency of life welfare, and also the well-being of people and efficiency of public administration. They put it in different steps. Now Estonia is number 1 or number 2 in the digital development or advancement in Europe. In the meantime, it has programs, very advanced programs and very advanced vision. They have what's called the virtual residence and e-residence, that you can be an e-resident or an e-citizen, and they are launching it now. And also they did something what's called a digital they did a digital embassy, that they are securing your data and secure it and other data, which so that they save it in other countries. They started to do something which is called Global Information Society think tanks. So they have a lot of ambitions, which is very strong in this field. The other country is Singapore. Singapore is a very unique company. They have a very unique experience. We have seen Dubai and Gulf countries in the adoption and inclusion, they are very developed, but in the production, they are not. But Singapore, they have a very good experience because they focus on the SDG strategy or Singapore Digital. They have 3 axes or 3 pillars, is accelerate and compete and transform. The pillar of acceleration, they try to increase the possibility of industry or the potentials of industry in them, and so they try also to integrate so that they can compete, they can be a competing country. They are trying to build an integrated ecosystem, which we call the e-government, but they have went beyond this 4 phases. They call about integrated ecosystem, because the whole system will be integrated, and the ecosystem as a whole will encourage the public business sectors, so the government is keen on to serving the business sector, and also they build digital industries, like they are transforming the current industries into digital systems, whether they are regulatory or the e-government. All they also like an integrated system, which will be the fourth step in which this country is in. And also we need to benefit from these to build more platforms, and so that they are participating heavily in the 3 Chinese companies. So the holding company of Singapore, and also they invest in the Chinese companies. There are 4 enablers that allow this. They are the talent, which is the human resources. The second thing is the research and innovation. So how to put the programs, and then the policy regulatory and regulations and standards, which we have talked about on the IBM presentation. And then the fourth thing is the physical and digital infrastructure. If we look at Korea, and which is the biggest experience, we can see that this is the model that Egypt should be following. We'll find that Korea, they started in the 60s. The per capita was 65, and at that time Egypt was 300 something, so Egypt was higher at that time. Korea has followed a different path because they focused on three main industries. One of them is electronics, and as a result they became now number one in the world in which is the E-intensity index, which is made by Boston Consulting Group. So it's not only the intensity, but it's a production. It is a productive company. It exports, because electronic exports is a very big part of it. So in Korea is number one in the use of technology. No one will, only in 2025 it's expected that China will be number one, and South Korea will be number two. UK, which is number two, will be number three, and then Singapore will be number four, which is now number 8 or something. So if we look at China, we will go that in 15 years, China will move from number 46 to be number one. If we look at the USA, we maybe will try to find it in the year 2025. Maybe we cannot find it. So here is the the USA. So these green countries, which we call high performing countries, which have the digital economy, represents 8%, more than 8% of its economy. If we look at Korea, they have a very good model. They are a very methodological company. They put plans in 1987, and the plans went on, and then made another plan, which is called Ubiquitous Korea, which is the inclusionary systems that will be included in all the systems, so that when you walk, all the cameras will be able to identify you, will know your location. The screen you will be looking at will send you the announce or the ad that you would like to see. What will come to your mobile is the thing that you want to see at the time you want to see this. So this system is what we call the inclusion system. So Korea now have reached more than 40% of this level of development, and it's now even precedes Japan, because Japan comes as number two. The most important thing here is that Korea is number one, is that in the global government. So in starting from computerization and to build the infrastructure, and then now they are in the phase of building on or benefiting from the infrastructure and what we have done before. They have put the strategy, which is called informatization. This is what they call it. There is computerization and there is informatization. They call it informatization. So I don't know how to translate this. We need to be an advanced nation. That's what they say. They have 3 pillars. They say that their objectives is, first, to have a better life for people, and they want to build something. They want an efficient knowledge government, and also they want to build a digital life, and they want to allow or make the information society accessible to everything. So they have the creative soft power and they have the cutting edge of digital infrastructure. And this is something very important which we always neglect in development. It's not just that we to give money for our infrastructure. So the idea is ecosystem of all the legislations and the system and training people and the culture. It's much more important than building a very high end building and put an is to have a good we don't want to have a porter who will just close the door at 2 p.m. and then go home. We need it to be 24 hours, or if he is sick today he will not go and open the door. So we need to have a system and train this person and train this porter who comes and open the door at 8 a.m. So if this happens and we are using those kind of people, things will be in vain. So if we look at the lessons learned, the first thing is that we should be thinking strategically. So what is our role in the to do? What do we want to do? What is our objective? So our problem is always we start on the drawing board from the point that where we want to be. We start from our problem now. We have a problem now that we have a pool of water that I am afraid that I will fall in. Because we always look, we need to know where we want to go and then see how many problems we have in our way. So we have we have to see what kind of gaps we have. But we first look at the gaps and stay in the gaps and then forget our main objective or overall objective. And this is our problem, that because we are always reactive, so we have to think differently. We have to think, what do we want to be? All these companies say that we want to provide opportunities for the Indians because we need to build a middle class. So they started to be productive. They did not focus only on providing services and providing quality life, quality internet, and leave people to work, like to stay 14 hours on the internet. The first thing, they started to let the Indian producer work, and made like Bangalore areas or regions where they can produce. Now the knowledge worker in India is the most efficient. So all international countries look for him. So the knowledge worker is the one who will lead the second phase. Now India, its strategy is based on, they try to develop its community, but they want to develop the rules of production or the pillars of production. So they bring foreign companies to come and tell them how we can do this kind of project, and bring the Indians and tell them, go and do this project for us. So now they do it in a better way. So now IBM will go and open a center there so that they can do a system for India and then do another system which will be exported to other countries. This is the same as what happens, because China said that we want to renew our infrastructure. So they brought Lucent and Alcatel, and they made like joint venture companies together, and they started to have Huawei and ZTE. So these are the countries that are now controlling the infrastructure of technology. Also, we need to address the dislocations, because there are negative effects that happens from this dislocation. The negative effects here will be very high, because now we are talking about a government, because things are, we are trying to say that our government can be run with can be run by 150,000 persons. Before that, it was run by 6 million persons. So now we have 6 million persons at least. We don't know what we are gonna do. What we call them, these are the ones who are like obstacles to change. We have to also to invest in human capital. So there should be a foundation to capture the benefits. The growth of economy and productivity is very important. The other thing is business and entrepreneurs. We have to develop it, and also individuals, how to develop the workers and the consumers and the citizens. The last thing is the society. We are still now focusing on society. We have a very wonderful rule. We have a large number of international companies, and one of the international companies who is a manager in a company in Egypt and outside Egypt, they are always trained to be a salesperson. They know very well how to sell things, but the machine that produces will be in a different place, because it's very difficult to transform someone who is a salesperson to be a policymaker. He cannot put a policy and he cannot put a framework. And this is what we are suffering from, because this is something of the things that we are really suffering from in selecting our leaders, because we have to do it in a different way. This is the whole world is talking about the data and privacy. We have to creating a strong business institutional environment. The last slide here, I try to put the key aspects of that any company or any country needs. But we need to transform from focusing on the state of art infrastructure, because this code is very important. Egypt, what are the implications of Egypt, of the country experience that we have seen, and what are the things that we need to look at in order to look and see how to build what's called the digital agenda, and the right digital agenda that can be compatible with our potentials and with our ambitions. It should not be short of ambition as what happens, and we should have all the means for them. But the most important things in the Korean experience, the first one is the plan. And the plan doesn't mean that it is something big, because Montgomery said before that planning is important and plans are not. So plans is not important. Planning is the most important. You should have planning, and then you have a plan, and always the plan will always be changed. This is what he said in the Second World War. And so plans is not important. Planning is the important thing, because always plans should be changed, but you should have a process in planning, and you have to change the plan to see why have you changed it, and then modify it from now and then. And the second one is to have agencies or to have bodies or entities that are part or affiliated to the prime minister, who is the strongest person in Korea, unless you have a vision or a political vision, just like what we are doing now, which we think that will be leading the economy. This is the having this will be, the Suez Canal project is a very historic one, but this one is a future one. The one who passes, or the one who makes it, is the one who is always proactive. So Gamal and I said a very important is that we have to. They did a very a shortcut, which is to civilization. They moved from industry, from agriculture to industry. Every country that worked well looked at the following phase, not just the next phase. So now they are part of the European community, and now they are number 2 in classification of European countries in digital transformation. So these are the elements that we should be talking about, and I will not talk for long, and thank you very much.